We'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Greg Bowen and the invocation by Pastor Robert Vega. If you'd please rise.
Remove cover. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. Good evening. Good evening. May God bless you all. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for today, Lord God, for the beautiful day that you have given us. We thank you because we are here together, united, Father God, with one common purpose, Lord God, with one in one accord, Father, to just serve your city better, Father. We pray, God, that as we discuss these matters and these certain items, Father, may you just bless us with wisdom, your guidance, and just be in the midst of us tonight, Father. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen and amen.
Thank you, Pastor. So we have a few presentations tonight. Tonight, the City Council is recognizing April as National Volunteer Month by presenting a proclamation to honor community members who have contributed to the economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development of the city. And this proclamation will be displayed at our Heritage Room. There will be an exhibit showcasing all of our city's fabulous volunteers. And I'll give you a little bit of the whereases. The 2025 theme, Volunteers Make Waves, highlights the power, impact, and importance of individual and collective volunteer efforts. And the City of Norco recognizes its local volunteers who are essential to providing quality services to the residents of our community. And the City of Norco is a diverse community that is honored to celebrate the history and the legacies of volunteers who have contributed to the economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development of our city, state, and country. And I certainly want to thank all the volunteers that are here in the audience, and we're so lucky in this town to have them. And you can applaud for yourself. Okay. And then next is DMV Donate Life Proclamation. And I'd like to call up Katrin and Rita.
Very good. My full name and said correctly. Good evening. Thank you so much for having us here again. My name is Kat. For the last 3 years, you've heard the story of my son Christopher and the lives that he saved. Thank you again for supporting us this month. I brought a news story for you today. My friend Rita is about to share, she's a fellow ambassador for One Legacy and a fellow donor mom, and she's going to share the story of her daughter.
Thank you, Mayor Newton. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you. I am, as Kat said, I'm a donor mom as well. So my daughter, Jasmine, she became a donor. She had made that decision and actually got her driver's license on her 17th birthday. But Jasmine actually stopped breathing in my arms less than 4 years later. And she's my only child. So it was really devastating to have to figure out what happens to my life now. But because Jasmine registered to be a donor and she told everyone, when we got the call from One Legacy, it was a quick conversation as far as confirming that yes, we knew that she wanted to be a donor. And for that, I thank her. But I'm here to tell you that there are so many people on our list waiting for that life-saving organ. It's just really sad to think that we're losing approximately 22 people per day that are on that waiting list because there's not a life-saving organ available. For my daughter, her whole life was about helping people. So for her to register was not a shock. And to think that she wasn't going to be able to accomplish much, she was only 20 years old when she passed, was really hard. But knowing over the years that she's helped others has really brought a lot of comfort. To this day, my daughter has touched 81 lives with her tissue donations. And to think that there are so many people out there that are living better, healthier lives because of my daughter, because of one person saying yes, is just amazing. We thank you for proclaiming this Donate Life Month in the city of Norco. We thank you for that. And we're hoping to have a long relationship with your city. And Kat and I are talking to the school district now, so we will be doing more within your city to just educate people on how important it is to register.
Every year I look forward to visiting with you. It's always a pleasure. I want to try something a little different, so I'm going to ask both of you to step up here carefully, and council gather around for a photo op. And so you get to smile and all of that.
Thank you so much.
Oh. Feel the same way.
1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Got you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
so much. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
All right.
Don't forget your phone.
Thank you. No, I don't want to hear from the sheriff tonight. So, I know, we're going to have Emily give her presentation. But I'm glad you made it, Jessica, Lieutenant Hall. Good evening.
Okay, good evening. So my name is Emily Long. I work at RSO. So I'm the Administrative Services Manager for the Patrol Division. So I help all the patrol stations with their budget stuff. And get the joy of building your contract rate. So not the most positive news always from me, but I hope this gives you a little bit of background on what we do and helps you understand a little bit more. I think we'll gain something from it. So I'll get started, see if this works. Okay, perfect. So tonight I'm going to go over a few things. First, just our contract model kind of overview. Second, service and benefits. Third, the fiscal year 24-25 proposed rate, and then future rates. Just kind of give you the outlook we see. So start with the contract model. So this is a lot of words. I will tell you very basically what it means. So we build the rate based off of Government Code 51350, which basically just says the county needs to charge cities for services they provide. There needs to be a contract between the two. And then that we need to not charge for anything we would provide the whole county free of charge. So things that we do for cities that have their own PDs and things like that, we assist with. None of those things are in your contract rate. So that's basically overview of what that says. I won't read it all to you and bore you with that. And then secondly, there are two Board of Supervisors policies that we follow. So B3 and B4, they kind of mirror what the government code says, but one of them is that at the request of the city, we'll provide specific services to them, and the rates will be developed annually, and the auditor controller will review them. So another county department other than the sheriff's department reviews them. And then we need to recover actual costs of services. So it's the county's way of saying we're going to charge you for what we're incurring. So that's what we do when we build these rates. Okay, so the basic model, general overhead costs are not billed. So you don't pay for the sheriff, executive team, captains. Those are general overhead. They would exist without Norco being a contract city and other contract cities. The rate is based on patrol station operations. So we treat the contract cities and the unincorporated area like it's a contract. They're all kind of getting the same rate. It's spread evenly across them. We include sworn and classified support personnel. For our labor costs, we use the current fiscal year costs. And for supply and services, we use the previous fiscal year costs. The rate is reviewed and approved by the auditor controller. The board negotiates with the unions, which I'll go into a little bit more detail on the unions in a little bit. And then net county cost things, the jails, courts, coroner PA, none of those are in the contract rate. Here's a little chart of kind of the timeline we try to go off of. So in the fall is when we start kind of accumulating everything. So we need to wait for the prior fiscal year to close. So we have those actuals to put in. We develop, we analyze all the positions, everything. February and March, usually we have a pretty good idea of what the rate is going to be. And then we have to get it approved by the auditor controller and shared with the cities. So that's kind of the process we go through. We, currently the contract rate for this current fiscal year is with the auditor controller. On a future slide, I think it says, I was hoping it would go to the board yesterday. It didn't get past the auditor controller yet. So I'm hoping May 6th it will go to the board. Okay, so that's kind of the overall process to give us a little baseline. So now our service and benefits. So Norco was our first contract partner for RSO. 60 years, 60-year partnership. So we have, I think in my office, I have the original 1965 contract back from back in the day. Yeah. So it's probably on yellowish paper, but but yes, I can do that. So currently, we have a 5-year contract that started at the beginning of this fiscal year, July 1st, 24 through June 30th, 29. That little screenshot there is what the level of service is currently. So I'm sure you're all aware of that, 48 hours a day plus your dedicated positions. And the level of service can be amended anytime throughout the contract term. We also make estimates all the time when people, how much would it cost to add this? How much would it cost to add this? So we run scenarios all the time. For going forward, the rate we're really going to focus on is your patrol rate, so for the 48 hours a day. That's kind of the big one we talk about. The dedicated ones kind of vary across positions, so it's a little bit harder to get into detail on those. Your benefits of contracting with us. So here's the sales pitch for RSO. We're a turnkey operation. You don't have startup costs of your own PD. We hold the liability because all of the officers are RSO employees. Flexibility and responsiveness, service levels can be adjusted as needed. We can flood you with people if something occurs. We have a lot of resources that can flood the area. Recruitment, training and retention, all of that. We're a big machine, so a lot of things happen constantly. Human resources services, and your specialty bureaus that are included in baseline services. So here's all your flashy other things that you get for being with RSO that aren't in your rate. So you get our SWAT team, a Special Investigations Bureau, Aviation, HGT, Hazardous Device Team, CERT, your Emergency Response Team, Forensics, Academy Training, all these things you get and they aren't in your rate. Okay, so now the fun money part. So for fiscal year 24-25 and future rates. This is just a big pie chart, mostly to show you that 86% of your rate is covering salary and benefits. Obviously, very large component. So that's what kind of from here on out, we're gonna talk about the union things. So that's why they make such a big dramatic change to the rate, because they are the biggest component of the rate. Your county ISF, so most of that is insurance, is about 10.2%. Sheriff controlled class 2, so that's everything else that we buy, supplies, all those kind of things, are 2.6, and then your radio charges are 1%. You have 4 major unions within RSO. RSA is the big one, so that is your deputies, corporals, and investigators. They had an MOU approved in December of '24. So, big MOU. We had, we needed to catch up to the times a bit. So there was a big contract negotiated then, which has a big impact on the rate because they are 65% of the people in the rate. LIMU, we're gonna kind of circle back on this one later too. LIMU is your sergeants, lieutenants, and captains. They are currently in negotiation. RSA contract created compaction issues of the supervisors. So that's kind of the current thing that we're going through right now. And then SEIU and LIUNA are classified unions. They make up small components of the rate, but they are smaller in relation to your overall rate. So RSA was approved mid-year this year. So it was approved on 12/10, and so it went into effect on 12/12. As I mentioned earlier, your rate for this fiscal year uses this year's labor costs. So this made a change to the current fiscal year's contract rate. They received an immediate 9% COLA. They received increases to medical contributions and uniform allowances. Other differential pays other than motor and SRO changed also, but those are the only ones that could affect the contract partners. Motor pay, the differential they get for being a motor increased. And then there's some premium pays for the desert cities, which obviously don't impact you also. But like I said, since this happened mid this fiscal year, it impacted this fiscal year's rate. So for fiscal year 24-25, the proposed rate increase is a 7.03% increase. If we go down that list here, the 2.96 was just your standard like merit increases and things like that that we knew about before, and your classified union increases. And then 1.12% ISF increases. The 2.95 was the additional that was added on when the COLA, the 9% COLA got approved for mid-year. So, and like this said here, rates were being reviewed, and the tentative date was April 15th, but that did not happen. So here's kind of just another snapshot of that same thing. So our rate that we sent to the auditor controller in March is a $229.55 an hour, which is a 7.03 increase. And there's different rates for all the dedicated positions, your differentials, and your mileage. Here's just another pretty way of breaking down that rate. So a majority of it is paying for patrol officers. You're also paying for sworn support in there, classified support, dispatch, your information services, records people, technical services people, lots of different components there that make up that rate. So it's not just the patrol officer. You're paying for everything that we need to make that successful. Now looking forward, so RSA has future increases in fiscal year 25-26 and 26-27. And there's different components that go into effect at the beginning of the fiscal year and some in December. So you have medical increases at the beginning of the year, and then 5% COLAs in the middle of the year. So since the 9% COLA happened in the middle of the year, right, we only really feel 0.5% of it, or half of that increase this year. We feel, the full impact of it next year, plus the 5%, right? And these are all compounding on each other every year when the COLAs increase. And the other thing is that LIMU, so Law Enforcement Management Union, is currently in negotiations, and we assume they will follow a similar path to fix the compaction issues. So that's kind of what leads us to the next slide, which is what I think the rate will be for next year. So I am currently projecting a 9.5% increase next year. 7.5% of it is due to RSA and the things we already know, and 0.5% for ISFs. And then 1.5% is my best guess off of what I think LIMU will settle at. So I don't really know. That's why it's kind of an unknown factor, but that's what I think it will be. So this kind of gives you a little bit of I expect after that point it to probably level out a little bit, because we now have the whole 9% increase, but that's what I am seeing. So I know some big percents there, but we had to do some things to keep competitive and keep staffing. So that's what the county settled on. So This is my contact information, and anyone's welcome to reach out to me with any questions at any point, but that's what I have for you tonight.
Thank you. Does council have any questions?
Okay,
I do.
okay.
Just on LEMU that you're in negotiations
Yes.
with, whatever changes come forward, their MOU expires in 2026, but we'll be incurring some of those costs
Yes.
beforehand?
So it's coming up sooner because of the compaction that
Okay.
was created by RSA, right? So obviously the union went to the board and was like, you know, we gotta fix this. So they have already started negotiations.
Okay.
Yes.
So my only other comment is that, as you mentioned, we're your first contract city.
Yes.
And if you would let the sheriff know that we appreciate that we have the best deputies here in Norco and the best lieutenant, and we couldn't be prouder.
I will pass.
And sergeants.
And the sergeant.
And Wittenberg.
Yes. So that is appreciated.
them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Emily. Good to see you again.
Yes, you too.
Don't forget our discount on these rates, okay? All right, let's go into reports on regional boards. Kevin, we're going to start with you as soon as the board changes.
So one of the things that we're all sort of facing is AB 1061, which is the assault on our historic district. Fortunately, we've been able to galvanize the Western Regional Council of Governments. They are going to be opposing it along with Cal Cities. I met with the executive committee, which is the overriding committee over of our entire region, Cal Cities. I think there's 8 of us. And then tomorrow we have another meeting. It'll become, through WRCOG, we'll officially make it a legislative fight. We've been informed that the Sacramento has put forth 2,000 bills, and approximately 300 of those are housing bills. And so we have no idea what that means. They're in various spots in committee, before committee, pre-committee, post-committee. They're all over the place. The person I really feel sorry for is Alma, because she's gonna have to figure out what all of that means. And then just a bit of pride, all of you know Susan Bowen. She is to be the Western Regional Council of Governments Volunteer of the Year. So I'm real pleased to hear that for all the work she's done. So congratulations to her, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Thea?
On April 9th, I was at the RCTC board meeting, and it was a good meeting. We approved agreements for the van pool program, which supports shared commuting options across the region. The commission approved a contract for the next phase of call box removals across Riverside counties. Some call boxes will remain in remote areas for now. The program is being phased out due to low usage and the widespread adoption of cell phones. And the commission also approved the low carbon transit operations program, funding for Riverside County transit operators. These funds support projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve mobility, with an emphasis on serving disadvantaged communities. Then on April 10th, I was at the RTA Transportation Now meeting. And there are some more news with RTA, including that, let's see, April 26th, the RTA is hiring drivers, and on April 26th, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the RTA headquarters, that's where you can go and apply to be a driver. And on Earth Day, which is April 22nd, everyone rides free that day on all RTA fixed route and Go micro buses. And ridership is up, and youth ride free, that's 18 and younger, through June 30th. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Fia. How do you like being on those boards? Good?
I really like it.
All right.
Yes,
Good.
there's a lot to learn, and it's just fascinating. I'm really enjoying it.
Okay, Greg, Robin?
On April 10th, I was able to come into City Hall for an audit subcommittee meeting with Mayor Newton, sorry. And then on April 12th, working with the EAT Center, I was able to teach a poultry processing class as well. So just wanted to keep people kind of up to date with the partnership on the EAT program and the things that we're getting accomplished through that initiative.
Thank you, Robin. At our monthly Chino Basin Desalter Authority Board of Directors meeting, and as most of you have received in the mail by now, the Prop 218 water rate study and for water and sewer. We purchase 1,000 acre feet a year through the CDA, and our proposed budget, our cost is now going to go up to $1,351 per acre foot, which means at the end of this year or next year, our water bill from CDA will be $1,300,000. So costs keep going up, and with the wells that we're running there, our electric bill with CDA runs a little over $1 million a month just to get the water out of the ground. So we'll be looking at that cost increase for our next fiscal year. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm working on my computer.
Okay. Would you like to do public comments then?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the time when persons wishing to address the presiding governmental body regarding the consent calendar or matters not on the agenda may be heard. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. The governmental body shall not discuss or act relative to any general public comment. And our first speaker will be Sarah Stark.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hi.
So it's been brought to my attention, you guys posted a sale for the animals that were Pam's. Well, I'm wondering why those animals were dispersed, and a lot of them before the sale happened. I would like to know why Officer Morris and her boyfriend, Joe Novi, has one said horse that was supposed to be put down. The horse was not put down. We don't put horses down for abscesses. I actually have seen this horse. They have gelded the said stallion now. I would like to know why animals were supposedly given to 501Cs, but none of those animals ever made it to 501Cs. Before that Friday, a ton of animals have been sold. I want to know why these animals were dispersed to her friends, and then they're selling them and making a profit. All that profit should have gone to pay off the bill for the animals. I really have a big problem with that. I really have a big problem with them thinking that this behavior is very appropriate, and it's not. We've been lied to, and I'm not happy with it whatsoever. I don't know what to think of it. I mean, Officer Morris is not a 501c. There's a gentleman that lives straight across the street from her. He's a well-known animal flipper. He's had animals sold before the auction was supposed to take place. Why? I think a lot of us in town are very upset about this. Pam cleaned her place up. It looks wonderful. I mean, and I honestly, as a city, this sale really had to happen to make it a whole and not the animals been dispersed between animal control and her friends. You know, if you guys can give us some clarification, write a statement, and kind of let us citizens know what happened with that, we would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate your comments. We can't comment to you, but I will ask our city attorney to address your concerns briefly.
Sure. I'm sorry, I just want to let you know I'm legally deaf, so I have to ask my son what you said.
Oh, sure, okay.
Yeah, so first on the ability to comment. This is on public comments, unscheduled matters. And the state has told the councils all over the state, that they're not allowed to respond to citizens who come up on unagendized matters, even though the council will want to respond. The reason is because all the folks at the home that didn't see it on the agenda. So we can't have a discussion on an item that's not on the agenda, because that prevents everybody who would have wanted to participate from having notice of it and coming in. So that's why the council can't bring it up and discuss it with you tonight, even though you brought it up and people want to comment. I can say as a staff member, we are gathering information to put it out. We actually have there is a good story to be told here about some animals getting rehoused in some good houses. We do plan on putting some information out publicly, and that should be coming soon.
Can I give that in writing because I didn't understand anything you said?
We'll be putting out some written responses soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Justin White.
Good evening.
Good evening. So I'm here to, on the same scenario here. Good evening, City Council. I'm Justin White, here to question Norco Animal Services competence. They seized Pamela's horses and livestock on January 23rd, 2025, and 41 days later handed her a bill for $114,895.31. If it costs that much to care for animals, this agency has no business handling them. That's not care costs, it's the price tag to completely refurbish her 5-acre property, not feed and house animals for 6 weeks. Break it down, $114,895 over 41 days is $2,802 a day. For 84 animal units, assuming that that number's even correct, that's $33 per animal per day. Animal shelters and rescues operate on far less. Feed was just $3,742.49, reasonable at $1 per day per animal, but $77,962.26 in Norco animal service fees. That's 68% of the total. Add security guards at $4,500 a week, fencing, porta potties, thousands more. This isn't animal care, it's a luxury resort budget. A specialized agency should manage this efficiently, not rack up costs like they're rebuilding a ranch from scratch. Compare that to Pamela's options. At this price, she could hire 2 to 3 full-time employees, say $20 an hour, 40 hours a week. That's $1,600 to $2,400 weekly, $9,600 over 41 days, leaving her over $100,000 to spare from what animal service costs. She could pay skilled caretakers, buy top-grade feed, and still have cash for vet visits. Norco's charging her more than it costs to run her own operation, yet claims it's care under Penal Code 597.1. If they can't do it cheaper than a private citizen, why are they in charge? It smells like profiteering or extortion, in my opinion, not protection. The law allows seizure for imminent danger fine. One old horse had a hoof issue, but all of her animals healthy and cared for, taken and billed at this rate. This is not reasonable, it's reckless. I ask you audit these costs. If Norco Animal Services can't care for animals without bankrupting owners, they shouldn't be in the business.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Bonnie Slager.
Hi, Bonnie.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to remind you that Horse Week is coming up, in case you hadn't heard or seen the banner in the street or anything. And the books, if you haven't gotten your book yet, they should be in the mail. They look like this. And so look for your book in your mailbox if you haven't gotten it yet. And if not, they're around in the stores on 6th Street. So be sure you get a book. Hope to see all you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. If I could mention, if you didn't get a book, AFS has a pallet of them sitting out there. Okay, you got them out?
Well, not all of them.
All right. Okay.
We do have him at City Hall on the front counter. Our next speaker is Jeff Cahan.
Evening, Jeff.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Just to follow up on Bonnie, when you do get your book, be sure to turn to page 30. There's a very special page on page 30 you might want to check out.
Is
I
that
would
the
be
clown car?
pretty close,
Okay.
yeah. For Donate Life Month proclamation, I want to thank the council for recognizing that, and I would be remiss if I didn't remind you and everybody of my donor, Sam. This coming June, it'll be 4 years. Sam was 18, and he died of a fentanyl overdose. Just enough to kill him, but not enough to hurt his organs and tissues. And as those two donor moms were here, I've met Kat for the last 3 years that she was here, and it was fantastic seeing her again. Her son was a B-positive blood type, which is my blood type, which is how we sort of connected when I first met her. So again, just thank you for that, and again, to remind and honor Sam's memory. And one other thing, as I tend to do here, remind the city of historical dates. Today, April 16th, is a very big day in our city. For those of you that don't know, it was the birthday of Rose Eldridge, a fantastic citizen and just boundless energy volunteer for the seniors, so much so that we named the senior center after her even before she passed, which was precedent breaking. And also, sadly, on the day, at least on the birthday of Rose Eldridge, was also the day that George Ingalls died in Vietnam in 1967 when he threw himself on a grenade and heroically saved his platoon. So April 16th is a red letter day in Norco for happy and sad reasons at the same time, but just wanted to again point out some fantastic history in Norco. Kevin, I don't think you knew about those, did you? Okay, see, that's why I do this. All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Jeff.
I have no further comments, Mayor.
Thank you, Dana. Okay, we're going to move into the consent calendar. Do any council members have any items they'd like to pull?
3K.
Okay. Anyone else? No. Okay. We have a motion and a second.
Please vote. And motion passes unanimous. Sorry, I'm having trouble with the screens right now.
Understood. We'll move to item 3K. Kevin?
Yeah, I just had a question. First off, Lacey, thank you so much for this. This was really helpful, a lot, so thank you. So ADUs are, and really just for clarification, because I get lots of questions about ADUs.
So do I.
So what you could, there's two ways to, if I understand, you can go with these pre-approved plans, which I like very much. I
Yes.
think they're great. Or you can match your house. Isn't the requirement that you have to match your house with a separate ADU, or you can have this option?
So there will be a note that will be added to the plans. There'll be a checklist on the plans, and you can either do the stone that's on the elevations that you guys see, or you can do stucco, or you can do siding.
And but if you go with one of these pre-approved plans, it may not match your home.
It will.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah,
the color still.
Yeah, the color elevations are just for appearances.
Okay.
What's going to be focused on for us will be these pages. So it doesn't have to be stone. It's engineered for the stone, but it doesn't have to be stone. It can be stucco or siding or stone.
So let's say they do 499 barn, whatever, whichever one they want to do.
Yes, sir.
It still, you guys will say it has to match the color of the house, or it has to blend?
Yeah, there'll be a checklist here.
Got
We'll
it.
put a checklist,
Got
and they're
it.
gonna tell us it's gonna be stucco, it's gonna be siding, or it'll be stone.
And then how do we check if it's going to match the house?
When we go to do our final inspection, planning does an inspection, and so does building.
Great, thank you, and this was great.
Of course.
Appreciate it. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Awesome.
Thank you.
Would there be any way that you could put like a sample plot plan up there to kind of give them an idea how to work, like, so when they come in there, you can show them where our animal keeping area is, that we don't want to go in the middle of it?
So currently, right now, we already have a sample site plan on the city's website.
Will
We
it be
provide.
put with that when they come out, or?
No, it's provided on the website now, currently, a sample site plan. It gives you an example of everything that's required to be on that site plan, right? As far as the animal keeping goes, like if you're referring to a deeded PACA, we provide a copy to customers when they come in.
Yeah, because when I looked at it, go, okay, it's great, and I go, I'm looking at like a set of plans, like the
Yeah.
first page should have like the plot plan on it.
Yeah, if you were to come to me and say, I want to build an ADU at my property and I want to use the pre-approved plans, you can use the pre-approved plans. The responsibility is going to be on you to provide me with a scaled site plan.
Yeah.
So you'll have a title sheet, you're going to let me know everything that's there.
Now, are these going to be given out like this to the people that come looking to get ADU, or?
They will be provided on the city's website, so you can download
Oh,
them
so
and
they're
print
both,
them.
okay, so,
Mhm.
okay. All right, that's it.
Thank you, Lacey.
Of course.
Good report.
Thank you.
Okay. Entertain a motion and a
Motion to
second.
approve.
Please vote. And motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, discussion items. Our order of presentation for this is going to be the staff report presentation, council questions to staff, any public comment, and council discussion and action. And this is item 5A. I'm going to call upon Interim Public Works Director Nelson.
Thank you,
Sam?
Mr. Mayor. So this is an item, a discussion item regarding a recommendation from the STUC committee pertaining to the exceptions and waivers for trail pavers in the horse trail. Basically, quick background, we had a resident advocate for himself to city council pertaining to a safety hazard and the use of pavers. We were instructed to take this item back to the STUC committee to basically discuss it and see if they had any ideas as far as allowing exceptions or waivers. And unfortunately, there's a unanimous decision to not allow them. And that's basically the bones of it.
Well, I'd brought this up at the end of the last meeting, and we all concurred to hear this. Before I get into my discussion with Colin on verbiage on this, my concern was that with streets and trails, I agree with their feedback, right? And to leave our standard the way it is. But I think there should always be some opening for the one-off, right? And in this case, I looked at it more as a safety concern. I did drive by that site again yesterday to make sure there was like no cars infringing on it and where the 2 rows of pavers were. But I kind of wanted to poll the council as far as what's your opinion? How do you feel about this, and how do we still move forward with Streets and Trails recommendation? And Greg, can we start with you? Or
I rode my horse by it, and it didn't really affect me. But at the same time, I told him, I go, if the city decides to have you tear it out, I'll come over and help them do it. But I think setting the pavers aside, looking at the issue of the slope, something needs to be done with like railroad ties across there to keep diverting the water. If we were to get rid of the pavers, and I've walked a lot of trails, I've rode a lot of trails on horseback, and you got a downhill slope, like which that is not great, but it's a little bit of slope. If you had like a railroad ties, we put the sandbags up there, but those are only temporary fix. They have to replace them every year. If we put like railroad ties and just put them just a little up 2 inches, whatever, and divert that water, it would alleviate that and wouldn't rot that corner out. We can get rid of that pavers. But I'm think what the mayor's saying is not putting the effort into putting the railroad ties in. It's going to, when the water comes off his driveway, it's going to erode that corner out, and he's going to have to keep rebuilding the corner. That's just my thought. I'm a big fan of nothing in our horse trails. He didn't pull a conditional use permit. If he'd have done that, it would have never got built. But just tearing it out right now, without coming up with a plan to alleviate the problem, I'm not for it. But to my opinion, it's such an easy fix. I mean, me and Bill and the guys could go out there and probably do it in a couple weekends. But if we tore it out, the rain would come, or whenever he washed off a car, it would erode. But the big rains, it erodes, and he has to rebuild that corner. But that's my thought. Do I think the pavers should be there? No. But if we tear them out, we're going to create another problem that he's already trying to fix. But if we do put the railroad ties, I'll be the first one to help him tear it out. So that's my thought.
Robin? None on this? Not right now. Oh, okay. Fia? The recommendation was with Streets and Trails and the reconsideration based on the property owner's testimony at the last meeting. Or you can wait and we'll go back to a discussion on it.
I think I'd rather just be in the discussion.
Okay. Kevin, any comments?
For me, the problem at that particular site is not the pavers, it's the really dangerous drop-off right at the end of the driveway. And I think the real fix is not so much those pavers. I think what needs to happen is a French drain of some kind like we put up in the hills. And that's what needs to happen. So I just think that the pavers are an issue that, I mean, there's always going to be an exception. There's always going to be somebody, but the real fix is a drain. And the second fix is they have to fix. I mean, in a perfect storm would be a car goes by, the horse is there, and at that exact moment, he's passing that drop off, and he rears back, and you will have a very injured horse and rider. And truthfully, that's on the property's owner's side. That is a huge liability. So I personally think that what needs to happen is, can we do a French drain? I mean, is that something we could do, or would it have to be on his property, or can you do like we did up in the hills? It's just right on the edge of the driveway.
So realistically, you would need to put a wall in there. And just to put it on the record, that situation was created by the property owner.
Yeah, it was not created by the rain.
It was, those homes were originally graded with the downslope, a high slope towards the garage at the upstreet part of the property, almost a magnitude of 3 to 3.5 foot. Somebody came in there and pushed a wall at some point, which we can't find a permit for, and instead of returning it to match the 2% grade that goes from property line to the street curb, they just dropped the driveway to make it more flat, creating this grade differential, which is what you see and what's the issues at hand.
That's the adjacent property
Yes.
owner. Okay. Which has created that.
So in this case, you would basically you have a wall, you have your trail, falls down, you would return the wall and chase that wall till you actually can match grade, till you still have that 2%, which would alleviate the drainage issue of the dirt coming onto that person's property. Because realistically, as designed, would have never done that.
So back to Councilmember Bash's question on putting an ACO drain in front of the driveway?
Yeah, like a trench drain would work.
Yeah.
Right, put something across the entire driveway.
Well, I would call it an ACO drain.
And make it traffic rated, install it on the person's property so it stays out of the horse trail, absolve most of that issue.
Okay. Thank you. Dana, do we have any public comments on this item?
I have no public comments for this item.
Robin, I guess it'll go to you if you have any comments,
So I
discussion.
guess I have a little bit different interpretation of what our discussion is, because the way I was looking at it was either are we going to take the recommendation from Stuck, which would be no exceptions to our trail standard, or are we going to allow some process for exceptions moving forward? So not specifically talking about the incident or the issue on Norco Drive, but looking at this as a global issue is the way that I took the agenda item. And with that being said, even in the particular instance on Norco Drive, I don't think that all of the potential solutions, even with using NOVA or whatever else, have been exhausted in this particular case. I'm under the impression that there were some recommendations given at Stuck. One of them being every time there's an issue, submit through the City of Norco app that there's a trail issue. NOVA would come out and do their work. So I just think in general, while I understand Norco has very unique circumstances everywhere we go, and we do deal with a lot of exceptions, when we talk about the importance of our trails, we talk about the fact that we have the Stuck Commission, and they've talked about this multiple times, and they're still coming back and telling the council, we don't need exceptions. My preference would be that we don't allow exceptions. If the council's direction is to allow exceptions, then there needs to be a policy in place with a form or a waiver type of system where those exceptions are equitably accessed by any resident in the city. But my preference would be at this time, with the amount of money we spend now on trail maintenance and trail upkeep and all of the investments that we've made in the trail system, the importance of the trail system to our lifestyle and protecting our lifestyle, that we would not have exceptions or waivers for our trail system.
And that would also be this specific case?
Yes, because I don't think all measures have been exhausted beyond just the pavers.
Well, just one
Go
other
ahead,
thing.
Kevin.
We're about ready to landmark our trails. and which is going to be a critical component if we have to defend our historic district. And because we have a trail standard, changing that designation, I think that we have to really enforce what we're doing to protect them as, in other words, it's like if you have an old house and it becomes a landmark, a historic landmark. There's certain things you cannot do to that house if the owners and everybody agree. Our trails are the same way. We have a trail standard, and we are hoping to make them, because that is now the bar they're raising to keep a historic district, that it only pertains to landmarks. And if they're successful, he has to be able to defend our trails. And so I think that what we're doing here and what Stuck has done is we're showing the importance of the trails. It's super important. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Via?
There's just a lot to consider. I mean, everything that Kevin had just says is very, very important. And also taking Stuck's recommendation is also very important. But when it comes to this particular property, I mean, there is definitely an issue here with this, the wall. This doesn't go out far enough. And I think that would alleviate some problem. But again, I'm not a builder or engineer, and I'm not recommending people put pavers without permits or anything like that. But I mean, this type of thing can kind of open the door to maybe there can be something. But again, you know, going with Stuck recommendation, and then what Kevin was saying about having the solid trail plan, I mean, I'm kind of on the fence with it, but this is definitely a problem. Something needs to happen here. I don't have a solution.
Colin, did you have any comments based on our previous discussions?
Sure. We can put an amendment or a note on the trail standard. And looking at it. Thank you. On page 100 of 277 of the agenda, there's notes, and one of the notes says the only approved alternative trail materials are the following, and it lists 3 of them. If council desires to put in some type of an option, we can just add a note to that says in exceptional circumstances based on council review or something of that nature. As Mayor Pro Tem Grunmeyer was saying, we want to make it equitable. So to make it equitable, you have to, we can have a broad standard that says upon council review, or we can have a standard that narrows discretion. The problem with narrowing discretion is the more factors you put that you have to find, the less you're able to pivot when you have a unique situation. So it really is, it's on a spectrum of how much latitude you want to give yourself if council does want to provide some way to deviate from the standard. As long as it's going to council, and council's making the ultimate decision, you can constrain the authority as much as you want. A new council can just change the authority. So sometimes it's better just to say upon council review in extraordinary circumstances, and then we can always make sure that the elected body is making the final decision and go with that. It just all depends on whether you want to actually have a way to vary from the standard, and that's council's call. You can do it. We can word it. We can word it as discretionary or as constrained as you want. If you are going to put in some kind of an alternative standard, the recommendation would be leave yourself the latitude to make discretion. Putting factors in is just going to get in the way for you to do equity, face unique situations, whatever it is that comes up. I have a hunch that if council has that in here, council's going to be very judicious and careful with how the council uses it anyway. So yeah, there's an option.
You know, my thought on this is, and when it was brought up to council by the property owner and then a couple of times, in one sense, looking at the existing condition as it is today, somebody could get hurt with the way that drops off. But there's corrective action that could be taken to alleviate that. Colin, to what you're saying, we run across this all the time. Like, it always seems like in Norco, every property's different, right? And it's like, how do you make one rule to fit all? And that becomes part of the difficulty with it. I'm leaning towards, well, one thing that kind of upsets me a little bit is I went ahead and did the work, didn't get permission. Now I'm asking for forgiveness. And I think, first of all, if it would have gone to Public Works, looking for an encroachment permit, I think at that time, alternative methods could have been suggested. I'm assuming either a drain or cementous type material, which would be harder than the pavers that were installed, the density of that. So my opinion's kind of changed back, trying to be compassionate, try to work this out. And the more thought, when I get deeper into it, it's, I think we stay with the Streets and Trails Commission's recommendation, no exceptions. There are remedies that can be accomplished. Though, are we showing this as an active code case? But we've kind of not pressed it momentarily, right?
At this point, it's been suspended until we get action from you.
All right. So that's what I'm going to ask my colleagues, what their opinions are, and your opinion on the suspended code case at this point. Greg, start with you.
Yeah, I'm all for 12 feet of trail, 12 feet of trail. But we need to come up right now or have something that we can to put a French drain in or put the railroad ties going across to help alleviate the issue once we take that out. I'm all for taking it out. But I don't want to leave them wide open. Let's figure out what we want to do as far as helping the drainage. It's not his fault, whoever owned the house below, like Sam said. First thing I noticed, they put the little small retaining wall, garden wall, whatever you want to call it. That created the problem because they wanted to get their RV or trailer in the back. I get it, but all it did was push that wall back further when naturally, when the lots were graded, they were graded to where it gradually went down so that it wasn't even an issue. But it's not his fault. He didn't create that issue. He just created the paver issue. But my suggestion is we come up with an idea, table this, come up with the idea of railroad ties or French drains. Shouldn't be our expense. Now, as far as the railroad ties go, they're in the trails. We could come to some, but the French drain's gonna be expensive. So if he wants to go ahead and decide to do that, other than taking option B, put the railroad ties in, because they have them all over the trails all over California. But that's just my thought.
If I could comment, Greg, I don't care to table it. I'd rather deal with it if we can. I don't think railroad ties are not commonplace in Norco, that we do have during rainy season that we sandbag, but also in our trail standard, in that I mentioned, there are alternate materials that we can use and that have that same density. So that would be, a suggestion on that. So we're on the same page. Okay, all right. Robin?
I think in in general, our approach with code cases has been education and moving people into compliance, and I don't see this particular issue being any different than how we've handled others.
Pia? Okay, Kevin?
I'll make a motion that we stay with the recommendation of Stuck, and if Sam's willing to go out and talk about drains, but what needs to be taken care of is that drop-off. It needs to be taken care of. That's on private property, and it's dangerous, and maybe you could advise them in terms of that and what it would take to put in a drain. I don't know how expensive it would be, but it seems to work up in the hills. But even if you put the drain in, unless you fix that drop, you're not solving the problem. That drain gets clogged, it's gonna, I mean, truthfully, you're still gonna get ruts, but he's worried it's gonna go down into that other guy's property, and that's, you know, aren't you responsible for water coming off your property? So anyway, I make a motion, we stick with what Stuck has said, and he can reach out to you and like you said, education, and say you need to take care of this problem. It's a liability for you and a liability to horses, but we must protect the trails. So that's my motion.
Under discussion on that, are you okay with taking the code case, using it as education, and just say, here's the decision on it, not pursue the code case any further? Here's the remedy, remove the pavers, you have these alternate solutions, okay? And if you move forward with that, we stay the code case. Are y'all good with that?
Yeah, absolutely, as long as he's going to comply.
Okay.
Include all that.
A motion and a second.
Please vote. And motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Okay, we're going to move into our public hearings. Item 6. Our order of presentation on this hearing will be staff report presentation, council questions to staff. We'll open and close the public hearing with public comment and council discussion and action. And this is item 6A. Alma?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. This agenda item 6A, I'll wait for it to get on the screen there. I don't know, is it going to come up? Perfect. Okay, thank you. It's working. Yay. Okay, so this agenda item 6A is an appeal hearing. It's an appeal of the Planning Commission's approval of Site Plan 2022-01 and Conditional Use Permit 2022-02. This is an appeal of the Planning Commission's approval of a shopping center on 6th Street. Just to give you a little bit of a background on the site is located on the north side of 6th Street, just immediately east of the existing Jack in the Box. And it consists of 4 legal parcels, totaling approximately 1.72 acres. Identified, and it's been identified as 1461 6th Street, located in the C4 zone. The property is surrounded by commercial zoning on the east and the west, and on the south across the street, and to the north is an A120 zone. So this is a site plan that was approved by the Planning Commission. The commercial shopping center consists of commercial space along the western boundary of the site, approximately 11,780 square feet of commercial space. And towards the front, in that little blue area there that you see, is a 1,384 square foot restaurant drive-through. All commercial spaces are distributed along the site, mostly as indicated here on the western portion. The project meets all the setback requirements in the C4 zone, with the exception of the front yard setback. However, the Planning Commission does have the authority to waive the front yard setback. The minimum setback in the C4 zone is 30 feet. However, it could go down to 10 feet, provided the Planning Commission makes a determination that there's enough architectural elements to warrant the exposure along 6th Street. So based on the design of the shopping center, the Planning Commission went ahead and approved a minimum 10-foot setback for the commercial buildings. You see there along the western side of the project site. The applicant has proposed along the block wall along the boundary, the perimeter of the site on the west and east side, 6 feet. On the north side, it is proposed at 10 feet, being that it is intended to serve as a buffer with the adjacent A120 zoning. Landscaping on the property is, you can't see it here, but it is highlighted in one of your exhibits in your staff report. But it's throughout the entire site. And there's also a play area in between the two buildings you see there that are broken up on the west side. And the total landscaping, everything combined, is approximately just under 22%. Vehicular access is via 2 driveways off of 6th Street. They're two-way, and they allow for, well, the intent is to allow access to the site, adequate access. And if you notice on the site plan, the queuing for the drive-through begins within the parking lot, and that helps eliminate queuing, anywhere close to the street. The applicant is proposing their minimum required parking spaces based on the calculation of a restaurant, primarily retail use and some restaurant. The requirement is approximately, it is 61 spaces, and 61 spaces are being proposed. And I'd like to point out that within the drive aisle, it's basically long enough to accommodate 10 parking spaces, but this is above and beyond the parking requirement. So basically, this queuing in the drive aisle for the drive-through is not part of the required parking, but it is above and beyond what would be required as far as parking spaces. And I'd like to point out also that towards the back of the property, there are parking stalls that are able to, basically if a trailer does go into the shopping center, it is able to pull through in order to adequately park a trailer should one visit the site. Towards the rear, and I'm going to point it out, of the site, right around there, there's nothing proposed there, but it's basically another pad. However, for development, should the applicant at one point want to develop that particular area, it would have to go back to the Planning Commission for review and approval. In the interim, the applicant is proposing to use this for temporary seating or special events that would need a special event permit approval. So I'll go into the architecture. So this is some of the architecture example. Well, there are the renderings and elevations that were within your packet. So I pulled out a few mostly for the audience. The entire commercial shopping center features a modern Western-inspired design incorporating various elements, Western elements such as horizontal siding, high parapet, and deep awnings on the proposed structure. So I'll just kind of go into some of the renderings that were provided. That is the proposed horse stall for holding of the horses. In addition to the architecture of the buildings, there's additional architectural elements such as lighting standards, water towers, and of course the horse type areas that are intended to complement the architectural character of the shopping center. Oops, let me backtrack. Planning Commission at their meeting did make the findings for approval, and they approved the project. This item was subsequently appealed by the City Council, so here we are. Staff is recommending that the City Council concur with the determination of the Planning Commission and approve the project, and the applicant and his team are in the audience and are able to answer any questions. So thank you.
Thank you, Alma. We'll start with questions for staff. Fia?
Well, I guess for questions, so when looking at this and it says, retail spaces, and we have the one that's designated as a drive-through, restaurant. I mean, the retail spaces can that also be a small little restaurant?
Yes, yes.
For now, that's all my questions right now. I'm
Okay.
more of this discussion.
Kevin, any questions this time?
Yeah, I have a question. Alma, does this architectural design follow the current general plan as we're building it today?
What we're working.
Modern Western architecture.
What we're working off of right now, what's existing, since the one we're working, our general plan that we're working on right now, it's not completed, and we haven't done any amendments based on the general plan, so we're still working off what we have currently.
And in terms of past architecture that we've done throughout the city, we have Western, we have Midwestern, we have Spanish Mediterranean, we have Southwest. Does this fit any of that architecture?
What it does, it doesn't, I don't know that I could necessarily identify it as the same. However, it does incorporate Western elements that are within our municipal code at this time.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Greg, any questions of staff at this time?
Looking at the corrals, going back, I know Fia made a suggestion for him to look at it. When you look at the footprint of it, it's really small. And the design is awesome, but what is that made out of? Is it made out of wood, or is it made out of, because if it's wood, it's gonna look just like what's happening over at Boot Barn. It's gonna be eaten up. I mean, horses love, and it's up to them. They're the ones that have to maintain it, but that would be a suggestion. For one, I'm looking at the one horse. Are they gonna barely be able to turn around in there? There's room enough to bring it all out. I think it's just an oversight on their part. But I mean, the overall look of thing is awesome. I really like the look of it.
So this is an element that the applicant is more than willing to comply with the direction of the council. Initially, they proposed wood, but they're open to suggestions, I'm sure. I mean, they can very easily, within the same footprint, actually just create an open area where, as opposed to having the roof, but it's ultimately up to the city council wants to recommend any changes. Obviously, the applicant is in the audience and willing to address it with the council.
Well, you could, going by what Knott's Berry Farm and Disneyland do, you could actually frame that out and put stucco around it and make it look like it's wood, which I know the cost is more, but your overall upkeep wouldn't be there because horses do chew on it, and they're gonna kick it. I mean, they're rough. They're just like having a 5-year-old and worse. But I really like the looks of it. If you could expand that out so the horses have more, and for every horse you can put in, there's a potential customer. So take everything out to the outer post and the inner post and just make it larger. But you guys got the right concept of what Norco's all about. That's my opinion. But if it's made out of wood, it's not gonna last long. But thank you.
Robin, do you have any questions for staff?
I don't have any questions.
Thank you. I have one, Alma, on that overall site plan, the future building pad. Just to make sure in the parking calculations, that pad, whatever goes there, will be standalone and will have to meet its own parking requirements. It's not indicative of the any of the other parking requirements on the property. Yes? Okay. That's my only question at this time. Going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Dana, do we have any public comment?
Yes, we do. The first one is Stephen Weaver.
I'll be brief. I'm actually with the team, mayor and council members. Thank you for your time. Is that better?
Oh, yeah, just, you're fine.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. No, we're really honored to be here, and you know, we know that sales tax revenue is a major part of the city's budget, 36%, much bigger than any other ticket item. We want to, you know, we're honored to do our little small part and help you guys bring in the revenue you need for fire, police, emergency services, and of course trails. So thank you so much for your time.
And we'll certainly give you the opportunity to speak when we get into discussions as
appreciate that.
The applicant.
And our next speaker is Bonnie Slager.
Hello again.
Good evening again. I understand they've been working on this a long time, and I think it'll be a nice addition to the city. I just have some concerns. Sunday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I was at the corner of Valley View and 6th Street, and the traffic was backed up from Valley View clear to the freeway. So where that shopping center is going to be was wall-to-wall traffic, and that's not an unusual sight to see, unfortunately. And I think they're going to make, when you leave there, it should be maybe right turn only. And I see people at Jack in the Box sitting there forever trying to get out onto 6th Street, and I do have some concerns that way. And also, if somebody's coming east on 6th Street trying to turn into the center, you might have to hope people will stop long enough for you to get through. So I do see some traffic concerns, which hurts the shopping center, because personally, if it's hard for me to get there, if the parking isn't good or the place isn't nice for my horse, I just don't go. And so how can they make this so it accommodates people that are picky like me and don't want to risk getting hit as I'm trying to go make a left turn into the shopping center? So I'm not sure how that'll all work, but I do think that's a concern. I don't really know why they have a play area, and but that's their choice. But I think putting the horse corral right by the play area is not a good idea. Since I live next to commercial myself, I no longer leave horses out in my turnout, because I see not just children, I see adults wanting the horse to come over, and they're waving a weed or something at my horse. And, you know, it's really easy to get a $1,000 emergency vet bill. Really, we've all had them, right? And so to put the horses anywhere where it's close to where people are going to hang out is a problem. The Saddle Sore has their corral out front there. They now have a camera on the corrals and a TV screen, so when you're sitting in the Saddle Sore, you can see your horse in the corral and see if there's anybody out there. And that's the kind of concern that people tend to have when they take their horse somewhere. So I think they need to rethink some of that. And then, I don't know, to me, the 10 feet in is really close, and I don't know what number of Western accents there has to be in order to go 10 feet, but you don't get good visibility down the street with the buildings that close, I don't think. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
There's no further public comment on this item.
Thank you, Dana. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council for discussion and action. Robin, would you like any comments? No discussion?
Not at this time. I didn't appeal the.
Greg, anything else with you? Fia?
So there's a lot that I really do like in this, and I know that there's been a lot of effort. There's just some items that I have some concerns about. One being primarily the inadequate horse tie-up area. It's too small. And the setback, the 10-foot setback, to me, that does seem like it could pose a safety concern, as you're going to have to pull right up into the trail to get out. The loading area is really, really small, and it's, I don't know if you noticed, but I mean, it would just accommodate like little vans. And then I do have concerns about the future building pad area. And I have comments for all of that, but I just wanted to kind of go down everything. But specifically the horse tie-up area, from what I understand, we don't have any kind of set standards or guidelines for this type of thing. And I think it might, going forward, be something we might want to look into, especially for properties that are going to be on our main commercial corridors. Currently, there's 2 10-by-10 pens, which are really small. And as Bonnie had mentioned, well, I can just speak for myself. When I go riding, it's usually with a group of friends, and we're not going to be able to tie our horses up there because there's not enough room. So that's one thing. And having to ride through the parking lot to put it into the tie-up area is also, I can see that being a little bit dangerous, because if you look at the other properties on 6th Street, the horse areas that they have, they're right off of the trail. So you can just get off your horse and put them in you can just tie them up. You don't have to ride through a parking lot to go put them somewhere. So that was it about the horses, the horse tie-up area. So I would like it to be bigger and primarily larger. And the front setback, I was unaware that we had this in the municipal code, that the front yard setback is normally 30 feet, but it can be reduced to 10 feet if there's enough Western themed design elements. I just can't quite fully understand that, because I would think that the objective for a setback is for visibility and safety and that type of thing. So I don't know if maybe that's something we want to look at again, or going forward with future developments, especially in the commercial areas. And the loading area is really small. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but on the development on Hamner and 6th Street, there's a semi-truck that parks in the right hand where you're gonna make a right onto 6th Street. He parks there and he's unloading stuff. And I've seen this like 20 times, because there's not enough room in that shopping center for the semi-truck to go in there. So looking at the site plan, this specific development will never have a semi-truck in there loading anything in their loading area. So that was something. And then my concerns with the future building plan area. So it states there, temporary seating installed on a stabilized gravel base as an interim solution pending approval of the secondary entitlement package. So that, to me, I'm kind of hearing that as like that's a flex use type area. And in the staff report, it says here, the applicant is proposing to use this area as a temporary seating area for visitors, which could also be used to stage special events such as parking lot sales and food trucks, etc. Well, if they're going to be bringing in these special events, wouldn't where is everybody going to park if the parking that's already there is just for these buildings? So that's a concern of mine. And there's one dimension I see on the site plan. I think it's 165 length. And the other one is approximately 41 feet. I'm wondering if maybe we can use the future building pad area is maybe a better place, a larger area to have a horse tie-up, even though I don't like the idea of having to go through a parking lot on my horse. Just trying to, come up with suggestions. Because there's so many things in this that I really like, and I mean, you can just tell they spent a lot of time on it. And then I can get into real specifics. I do think it's a little bit modern looking. But my main concerns are those three things.
Kevin?
So, thank you for the comments regarding creating revenue. One of the things that we fight as Norco is, let's say we have 20 people on a street, whereas other cities have 100 people on a street. That means we're still going to pay the same amount for a mile of road, except we don't have 100 people paying for it, we have that 20. So we're always looking for unique opportunities to create revenue. And we have 2 streets to make money on. And one of the things that's come up in our discussions on general plan is creating place. Place. We're also a city that we've tried to find things that people will come to create a destination. Stay, play, drop your money, and leave Norco. That's what we're looking for you to do. And you have an opportunity to capitalize on the 2 million people that are going to Silver Lakes. And one of the things that, and I don't want to criticize your plan, but I want to maybe somehow we can make it better. For me, this shopping center could pretty much be built anywhere. You could go to Eastvale, you could go to just about anywhere. There's a few elements, but they're separate from the actual architecture themselves. Like, for example, if you were to walk down on page 9.3, I guess, yeah, 9.3, you look at that upper right-hand corner with the 2 people walking in front of the building. That building can be anywhere, anywhere. Essentially, what you've done is created a rectangular box, and you've put architectural elements and then separate elements to try to enhance what actually isn't in the buildings. And again, that's not a criticism. I get where you're going. I've never heard of modern Western before, but I see that when I look at your renderings. So for me, I'm not understanding why, and I don't want to criticize anybody, but I'm not understanding why the buildings that we have successfully put together in the city of Norco with horizontal and vertical profiles, up and down, that are part of the actual building, insets and outsets, that as you walk through, I mean, if you go to the boot barn, which is not the best example, Wanda, your building, why is it that we are having outcrops as opposed to contiguous porches? Which there's probably, I mean, I sent 20 photographs to Alma. I could actually take pictures of 100 buildings which are Western themed. Now, as I said before, we have several themes in Norco. We have Western theme, we have Midwestern functional theme, we have barn theme. We actually have more. We have Spanish Mediterranean, because the influence of the Norconian has actually influenced. You'll see a lot of I mean, we even have storage yards that have clay roofs that are in Spanish colonial, Spanish Mediterranean. And then we have Southwestern themes. I mean, if you go to the corner of the boot barn, you literally have 4 styles. So at that specific corner, you have Dr. Wells's single, one shop, functional building with some Western tchotchkes, but you have sort of that old patterned kind of a angular top with their sign on it. Right across the street, you have the barn, the metallic barn. Then across the street, you have what you could really consider to be a very Western style kind of walkway with the covered porch and all that kind of stuff. And then you actually have a Mexican, Spanish, it would be Spanish colonial, be a Southwestern mix, kind of a mix. You got some tile roofing, you got, but you have 4 separate styles. And yet when I look at this, what's happened is you've taken photos of the least ornamented buildings. If you go down Hamner Avenue, you have all kinds, I mean, even the post office has some Western theme, and all the buildings in front of it where the church is. You've got coins that are very Western-y like. You have maybe a straight face building with walkways, porches, angled supports, and then you have this sort of outcropping on the end. When I look at this, what I see is, again, a box with some outcroppings, and if you were to walk down this, again, there's several examples, you would not know you were in a Western-themed or with any of the things that I mentioned. You could be in Eastvale. You could be anywhere. And so for me, we always have developers come in and they say, well, you know what? We want to put in apartments, or we want to do this, and we'll put in an arena, and just for horses. Well, I've been in horses my whole friggin' life. I can build an arena in 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and I can tear it down in 2. So for me, it has to be in the architecture. And so, horse cutouts, they will come and go. The water tower, I love that. The play area, for me, being in the kid business, the liability of that is astronomical. Wanda, you were in the kid business. Do you know what that takes? I mean, you're gonna have to there's all kinds of things to keep that up, and eventually it'll go bye-bye. The fenestration in terms of the windows and the doors, they're very square. I would prefer to see some kind of curvature, something that indicate, maybe the windows, it's as simple as, rather than just a solid pane of glass, you have segmented panes, something like that. Those are things that you might be able to do. I like the cactus. I love the lighting fixtures, by the way. The sign is fantastic. I think that's really cool. But again, those are things that are outside the actual architecture. I would like them, when they walk down these walkways in front of these buildings, I'd like them to feel like they're in Norco. That's what I personally am looking for. And I get this is a nice design. This is really a beautiful design. First time I saw it, I said, wow, that's pretty cool. But it ain't Norco for me. I also don't think that, given what I'm seeing in the general plan, it doesn't adhere to the general plan. Truthfully, I don't understand how this got out of architectural review, because what I think needs to happen, and again, I don't want to insult anybody, but maybe our planning commission needs to drive the streets and look at the buildings, because our planning department over the last 25 years has actually designed beautiful buildings. I mean, when you drive down the street, you go, wow, that's Norco. You know it when you see it. Again, we're a destination city. The contiguous porch covers, I think that's really super important. I think rather than the flat roofs, I think you have to have some, I don't know what it's called. But you know what I'm talking about. It's a profile. It's a profile. I don't quite understand above the walkways. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, you have 5 sort of straight lines. You have places where you have this goes like this and that goes like that. I'm not seeing how that will tie in with even next door to the Jack in the Box. And then I just don't understand it. And then the other thing that I'm not, I don't know, Greg mentioned it, wood, stucco. One of the things that bothers me, that I think somehow you're gonna have to break it up, is the buildings that face the street. They're just, you kind of hide them with all of the external elements that will come and go. And what is it that, if you look at that, makes those appealing other than the things that are outside the architecture? And I'm not trying to be mean. It's just that we've just experienced a year of trying to, one, figure out what the street is, and two, we're trying to create things that will make us so unique that it will help us to survive as Norco. And so I know we're putting extra demands on developers, but we've also learned from mistakes. We have a beautiful building over on 2nd Street that we thought, yeah, they're gonna stamp horses on it. Well, it's a big box with a horse on it. And we're trying to find ways so that people, one, will wanna come to your shopping center, because, you know, all those kids over there and all those parents, they're trying to find a place to keep their kids together. I did it for years. They want to keep that team together, and they want to take them someplace unique. They do not like going to East Vales. They go there. They don't like it, though, because it's so hard to get into, and this is to Bonnie's point. But they Google, and when they Google and they say, whoa, that's pretty interesting. Why don't we all go there? And if it's an attractive place where there's things for the kids to do or to look at, or a nice restaurant, you're trying to keep your team together until you play that next game in that tournament. That's the reality of Norco. And then when you have people coming in from your rodeos, from all your various events, they're gonna go by, and rather than 10 years from now when those horses may not be there, what is the building gonna be that's going to bring them into that shopping center? Again, I'd just like to see, and you do have rising and falling things, but for me, I would strongly suggest that you drive Hamner and you look at the Western architecture, we have one building that was just built on 6th Street that is essentially a 2-story box, which we complained about, and they put tile on it, and they put some V-shaped supports, and basically it's a box with artificial stuff on it. And I would really like to see you blend in more with what you have in front of you, because this could really be a nice development. And those are kind of my 2 cents. So I unfortunately, unless I see that, I can't support this, because I don't know what modern Western is. I think that you kind of have to go back to the drawing board a bit and just make something that architecturally says Norco. And I know that's a huge demand, I know, and I also don't think it's fair, because you're getting this now, and that's something that's going to have to be addressed, which our general plan, which is what we're doing. I know it's a pain in the butt, but I want this to be a development. Every development that I approve, I want to say to myself when I drive by, when I'm old and retired, and drive by and go, wow, that's it. I want to be proud of it 10 years from now. And I also want my residents to drive by and go, we're keeping Norco, Norco. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
I just have a few comments. Alma, the first one, when Councilmember Sullivan brought up about the use of the future building pad and the parking. Like I asked earlier, that pad, the parking for that future pad is standalone. If there's special events or whatever that use is, it's not, the proposed parking isn't going to accommodate additional use on the future pad.
In terms of special events or?
Yeah.
Okay, so if they do a special event, they would have to come in and get a special event permit.
Right.
So they can, where's my, here. And that's where, you know, the applicant would have to, again, for special events, this is just out of the ordinary, could, you know, go next door to the church, you know, and have them facilitate temporary parking.
Okay.
So that's something that we would look
All
at
right.
on an individual
Yeah,
basis.
I just want to make sure, because
Absolutely.
that we're clear that it's standalone, and
Yes.
then the other parking comes in. Couple of concerns I have is going through the conditions of approval under building. we only had 3 conditions. And typically, our conditions of approval under the building category is more than that. So I'm going to give you a couple. And let's start with the cover on the proposed holding pens, stalls. Typically, our conditions under building would state any exposed roofing, any accent porches, et cetera, are standing seam metal and/or concealed fastener. Okay. And then, have we ever defined what monumental art is? I know when we first put that requirement in on planning, that commercial is monumental art. I will give the applicant credit on, I like the water tank, okay? I'm not a big fan of the metal cutouts. Like on the light fixtures, the little horsies. This just seems to be just a way, I guess, to try to appease us. And I know planning looked at that also with the stagecoach and the horses. It's just a metal cutout. That doesn't do anything for me. I'd rather see trees there than that. But do we define to an applicant monumental art?
We have not come up with a standard definition.
Okay.
We have not.
You know, I think we did that a long time ago to add that condition. So it's just, I know art's subjective, but that doesn't do anything for me. But the water tank does. Are you able to pull up sheet 7.1?
I didn't pull them all in there, but let me see if I have it. I do not have that one on the screen here. I just pulled
Okay.
examples of the packet, the entire packet. So no, I do not have that page on
Can't do
here.
it on that?
No.
Okay, so 7.1 is masonry, screen walls. Maybe the applicant can answer this for me. You show a detail 05 screen wall, cannot find it on the drawings. You show a detail 02 concrete block wall masonry fence detail, which you have one cut on the 6-foot wall, maybe on the big drawings, but on the 10-foot wall, you don't show a section through on that. So if you recall, when we did the block walls at Carmax, we had those walls, as they made the corner, they were just going to chop it off and come in with a lower wall. And we required the corner there to be stair-stepped, right? There's no detail on these corners on the transition from 10-foot to 6-foot. Okay, from the north wall to the east and west wall. So I'd like a condition on there that that transition steps, okay, in height.
You mean, just for clarification, coming towards the front of the property as they
Yeah,
transition?
start on the north side where your 10-foot wall is.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
I got it.
all the way across.
Okay.
Both ends
Got it.
are going to transition to 6. So as they head
Got it.
to the south, the east wall, the west wall, as they head to the south wall is going to start at 10 foot and start stepping down to 6 foot
Yeah, I suppose.
over X amount of distance.
opposed to abrupt.
Correct.
Got it.
Right. Got it?
Got it.
Then the other is, in one of our building conditions, on heights of walls, we always put
Finish grade.
from finished surface, okay? Section 05 shows it from, that one's from like rough grade, where the wall starts, and section 02 is from finished grade. And I'm not gonna get burned again. If you all remember Corey Down and River at the El Polo Loco, when they said, your finished grade is at the bottom of this culvert, so when all the people came around the drive-up window, their headlights went right into the neighbor's house. So no more of this BS on finished grade, rough grade elevations. Everything is from finished surface, which is either asphalt or concrete paving.
Got it. From the inside.
Pardon?
From the inside, not the outside.
Yeah.
Got it.
And I guess that's one of my concerns is these are all standard stuff we usually have in our conditions under building. So we're a little short on that. And then I think what Councilmember Bash was, well, I know what you were saying, Kevin, I don't mean it. I think it's, when I look at this, it's, you know, there's like, the character is lacking for me. And so, Dana, do you have that photo? It's just, this is not Norco, so it means somebody out of the blue can find it. If you can pull that up, but.
I have IT in the back pulling up the slides now.
So this, we were just driving by out of the blue. Like I said, this isn't Norco, but it's like, wow, these guys came up with a nice little looking building that has modern, but some Western pops to it. And
I also pulled it so you could see it from
yeah,
each side
and from that
for you.
elevation also. And I don't, Kevin, is that somewhat of, I mean, not saying that's the perfect example,
No, but like, for example, go to the other one.
The other one here.
I mean, the barn is very distinct, but notice the windows. See, they're segmented, as opposed to just sheets.
Right.
The building on the left, even though you'll notice that there's some outcroppings, there's some variation. There's both the vertical and horizontal lines are different. There's some contours, there's textures, and they had to keep it within, obviously, within their, you know, their brand. I don't know, I sent a whole bunch of photos, but.
Yeah, and
but
your
this-
photos
this-
were great. This was just something we took.
Oh, no, this is.
Right, you know, per chance. And it was just like, wow, that's kind of, you know, stuff we ought to be seeing.
Like we
So-
talked about, Kevin, it extended
Yeah.
down through the whole other.
Right.
One of the issues that we run into is that and this is not you guys, don't get me wrong, but what we find with some developers is they will develop completely differently for Orange County than they will for Norco. They will develop because their feet are held to the fire, but they'll come to the Inland Empire and they tend to not put maybe the money into it that they would if they were in Orange County, if they were in Irvine. And I know some of these things are expensive, but in the long run, I think you'll get a better product. And if you want to blend with us, you're keeping Norco, and that's what we're trying to do. Again, as you look at some of the photos from the other development, go back, or can you?
It's these, oh.
Yeah,
from the-
okay, well, from that, I mean, again, if you were walking down the walkway in front of like that long, narrow building, you would not know you were in Norco. But you know what? If that building was in Norco, I'd feel like that's Norco.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's still my turn. Okay.
I have a quick comment.
Ms. Anderson, would you
Yes.
like to comment, please?
So as we've been working on the general plan and the objective development standards, we've been really trying to define what Norco looks like. We've been working with Councilmember Bash on those historic images, and although we haven't brought a definition to council for approval yet, the term that we're workshopping right now is more functional agrarian. So we find that that is more all-encompassing of the different architecture that you see as you drive down 6th Street and other areas. It's not truly Western because that's still a very subjective term, but when you look more at the usage of the building in terms of a design perspective, everything leans agrarian, which is obviously the umbrella term over animal keeping. So I'm seeing that in this photo, and we'll have a deeper conversation about that as we bring the ODS forward to council, but I wanted to offer that in terms of this conversation. Hopefully that could help understand more as we define what Norco looks like. And we have provided those example photos of Tractor Supply, SoCal Equine, Backcountry Chiropractic, Boot Barn, and even the Beauty Bar on 6th Street. You're seeing that similar agrarian style, and we'll get into a deeper conversation about that, but hopefully that helps.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to comment on any of council's questions or statements? Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members. How are you? I'm here with my colleagues, Larry Hallinan, architect, and Stephen Weaver, land use attorney. I just have a small opening statement. I hope you guys are all doing well. My name is Cyrus Dorbayan, and I represent the development team. Over the last 4 years, we've worked hand in hand with the planning department, incorporating every single design suggestion that they've given us. We've received planning department approval, architectural review board approval, and planning commission approval. We've gone through countless design iterations. We've spent a significant amount of capital and gone through a significant amount of time to create a cohesive design that I think we can all be proud of. That being said, we love the city of Norco. We have made friends in the city of Norco. We do business in the city of Norco, and now we want to build in the city of Norco. We understand your suggestions and your concerns, and we are sensitive to them. All we ask is, can you please include them in the conditions of approval that have already been granted, so we can secure our tenants, our contractors, and our financing. I mean, this is almost 4 years now. So we've gone through countless barriers of red tape, and we just want progress. Please, thank you.
Just very briefly, most of the things we've already talked about, for example, the corral, we are planning on using metal. The play area behind it, personally, I see that more as maybe a patio dining, not a children's play area, which I think would alleviate some of your concerns there. We do plan on making the exit from the property right turn only on both, so that should help with the traffic considerations. And as Cyrus just said, we are more than willing to work with the fenestrations and the elevations, and I agree with Mr. Bash's comments to try to make this as much Norco as we can, still maintaining the economics of the development, which is always a very great concern. So anyway, thank you for consideration, and as Cyrus said, just something that would allow us to proceed because it's taken so long.
Thanks again. Just wanted to reiterate, I do believe that a lot of the ideas of Councilmember Bash can be incorporated as conditions of approval, awnings, segmented windows, these can be incorporated. This has been a long, arduous process where we have absolutely endeavored to meet every board's approval. We've went to the Planning Commission twice, just to make sure that we had something that fit. As far as, our partners, we're continuing to negotiate with folks, and we want to make sure we can, eventually deliver a product so we can get the financing for it. And liability issues are not something that needs to be worried about, because folks have to get commercial general liability insurance before we can get any financing, and they ask extensive questions over usage, area, and everything. These actuarians, they get through everything risk-wise, and they charge us for it. So that's all.
Is one of your concerns just on entitlements?
No,
Okay.
no,
the it's zoned correctly.
No. It's
your
not
overall
about the
project.
No, it's not about entitlements. We want to find tenants so we can, but they won't do it if there's not an end in sight. We've lost a few partners already. Starbucks had left. We'll find new ones. We're good at that. But the sooner we can get at least something concrete, the sooner we can let everyone know what the picture looks like, and the sooner we can bring something beautiful and revenue to Norco, because we can definitely incorporate these changes as conditions after going through architectural before. But we're happy to invest the money. We're not trying to cut corners in any way, and we want to deliver a project that you guys can be proud of. So we're here to work with you guys. Just give us the conditions, please.
Okay. Thank you. Colin, could you comment on, I'll still call it entitlement, or how do we coordinate moving forward with adding additional conditions? Because I'm leaning towards, I want them to move forward on the project. The overall use is fine and acceptable. My concern, along with a few items, is architecturally, okay? I'd like them to be able to move forward, but I want this to go back to the Architectural Review Committee to at least work with staff on improving what's been heard up here. Is that?
That is
How do we do that?
That's something the council can do. We're not dealing with a residential property where our discretion is constrained in that area. So the council could send this back to the Architectural Review Committee. The applicants come up, they've expressed their concerns, so in council's discretion, whatever you think is the best way to get to whatever finish line you're looking for, we can. We have more discretion here because this is a commercial project.
I'm just curious to say, okay, the recommendation is concur with the Planning Commission. I guess overall it's, approval of the site plan, but then how do you tag, like, well, I don't like the architecture, I want all these other conditions added, without shooting ourselves in the foot again, saying, oh, no, you guys approved the site plan.
Yeah, it's hard to design from the dais.
Right.
I understand that.
Absolutely.
So if this has been to the Architectural Review Committee twice, it's been to Planning Committee or Commission twice, what is going to be different sending it again? Most of these projects go once and once, and then they come to us, and if we've had conditions that we want to add, we add those conditions from the dais, and we approve the project and we move on. So I'm super confused why potentially the ask is to send it back to a group that, for a third time, that after listening to my colleagues discuss, didn't get it right. So I guess that's where I'm at. I'm like so confused how this project got this far, and listening to my colleagues say it was a swing and a miss. But we're gonna send it back again. I'm having a real hard time wrapping my head around that right now. So
What do you suggest?
if you have your conditions that you wanna add those conditions right now, and be done with it. They came up here and said, if you want segmented windows, put it in there. If you want different architecture, put it in there. If you want the block wall, put it in there. Do it and just get it done. We don't need to send it back again. If that's what you guys want, write it down, approve it, and let them do their project. But honestly, if there needs to be like some joint study session or something with Planning Commission so we can all be on the same page, then I would recommend that that be done, because it's not fair to people that are coming into the city to try and do projects to get, again, 4 years down the road, however many meetings, and then to be sit here and picked apart at a council meeting. That's not our job, to sit here and pick projects apart like this. That's why we have the Planning Commission. That's why we have architectural review. So I'm incredibly frustrated at the amount of time that we've spent this evening. This shouldn't have been taken care of or handled this way. It makes the city look bad.
Greg, if I can suggest, I'm with you, Robin, in terms of I'm not exactly sure what happened here, because it's obvious, but unfortunately sometimes creating something good, it takes a whole bunch of people. What I would suggest is that they've heard the recommendations. I would suggest they talk to Kelly. Part of the reason that I'm sort of up on this is because I've been working with Kelly, and as she's writing these elements into the general plan, and maybe would you guys feel comfortable, maybe I should ask you, would you guys feel comfortable with the suggestions you've heard to try to come up with something different? Because otherwise, I guess we could say, okay, contiguous porches. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't bring any of the photos, but the different elements we've talked about, would they be willing, because they're gonna have to design those things, and they're also gonna have to look at the cost features. But the problem I have is that I represent the people of Norco, and the people of Norco deserve a good project. And if there's been errors made, which there always seem to be errors made, do I feel bad about the developer? I most certainly do. But at the same time, I have a responsibility. We're trying to create 6th Street into a destination point. And I mean, I look at Rite Aid, if you recall, that city council, they decided to do it from the dais, remember that? They just threw the Planning Commission stuff out the window. We've got different you got another building down the street that's a box with tchotchkes on it. I mean, how did that happen? I mean, maybe we're gonna have to review that, but for now, I feel bad about the 4 years, but there's an architect sitting over there, and he's the one, he said, we'll do whatever you need to do. All you have to do is drive down 6th Street and drive down Hamner Avenue, and you can see the different elements, and if somehow those can be incorporated. I know that the design as it stands is too modern. I'm not an architect. I could tell them, okay, I want stucco, I want a contiguous walkway, I want that which is functional, keep people out of the sun. I want the segmented windows. I want arches in some of the windows. I want to have a better frontage to the street. I want to have, I'm not so concerned about the horse stuff because that'll come and go. I'm not, the cutouts, I mean, we have cutouts sometimes at various events. They don't look so great. The openings, they just need to be different. They need to be more somehow Western or functional or agrarian. Somehow you have to convey the feeling that when you're walking in front of these buildings, you're walking in something that's unique to Norco. And I don't know if we 5 can, because I know Greg loved it. So maybe for all I know, he says, hey, this is what we want. I just don't know. And
For me, I think there's 2 issues going on here. We're not done with the general plan, and you're trying to impose a general plan that doesn't exist yet and hasn't been approved. So I think that's part of the confusion here, is we're putting the cart before the horse, because the general plan is being worked on, and there's some super cool elements that we're like, yes, those are Norco, that's what we want, but we can't like impose that on somebody that has a project in the works because it's not approved and not done. And then I think the other kind of part or dynamic of this is all those things that you said. Those are things that, again, number one, will come with the general plan, and when we have the study session with Planning Commission and City Council, we'll all be on the same page with that. But if those are things that we want now, then we need to have that study session sooner rather than later so that those folks know what the expectations are from the dais. And I'm by no means saying we want to approve a subpar project that's not going to meet the needs of the residents and all that. That is absolutely not what I'm saying. I lived next to one and watched it go up. We've dealt with all the ones that you've said before, so I'm keenly aware of the repercussions of making bad decisions from the dais because I've lived through them as a resident and as a council person. But again, we cannot impose on somebody rules that are not currently in place. And I feel like even with the 5 of us, if Kelly came to us and said, hey, give me 4 pictures of something that's functional agrarian, she's gonna have 5 separate sets of pictures that are not even remotely related. So for us to impose those kind of expectations on somebody is not fair when we don't even have consensus up here or the pictures that will be in the general plan to give them. When the general plan's done and it has all the pictures and we can hand those to somebody, this is Norco, they're gonna go, oh yeah, 100%, I get it, we'll do it. But we don't even have anything to point to at this point in time. And I know you say we can drive down 6th Street, we can drive down Hamner, like, and I know Greg mentioned like the cutouts on the light standards. It's because they drive through Norco and that's what they see. There are cutouts on every light standard in this town. So when they drive around and they, oh yeah, we could do that. But then you look at some places on Hamner, oh, they screwed a wooden wagon wheel to the side of the wall and put some wood round things sticking out of the top. That, again, that doesn't do anything for me. And it's so, you know, when I looked at this particular development, the way I see it is they're kind of mirroring what's across the street to a certain extent. So, you know, when somebody would drive down 6th Street, you've got the Norco sign, and it's gonna be somewhat cohesive on both sides of the street. So are there things that can be fixed? Are there ways that we can work with them to incorporate the things that you guys have asked? I heard that that answer was yes. How does that get accomplished? I don't know. Is it conditions from the dais right now? Is it asking them to sit with Alma and incorporate some stuff and bring those conditions back? I don't know. And I guess my last kind of frustration with this is when the appeal was made at the last meeting, it was over horse space. That's what the appeal was grounded in. And then all of this comes up. Again, another thing that I just don't think is fair.
I think that we do have a standard, otherwise we wouldn't have all those buildings. And that's just a fact, and if you really look at it architecturally, it does not match what's across the street. I mean, there's parts of it that do, but they don't. I mean, I took photos and sent them to all of them. I mean, if you want, we can sit here and we can try to put together the architectural elements of this, but the truth is, we do have them, and we know that because you have all these buildings. We've been building these buildings for 25 years.
So then what happened, Kevin? It's gone to architectural review twice and it went to planning twice. So what happened?
They failed.
Okay, so then the discussion is on our side of the table. And you got, again, I was outvoted on this anyway, so y'all need to come up with a decision on what you want to do with the appeal that you voted for.
What do you have to say, Alma?
I really like the idea. I agree with Robin. A real easy fix is to put mansards up there, and you can, I'm not trying to draw your property for you, but at the same time, you don't have to change the structural content of the building. All you have to do is put some mansards up there, some parapet walls, and next thing you know, you got like a barn outlook. And I agree with Kevin. I didn't really notice that because all the gingerbread was around it, and it caught my eye. but I agree with Kevin, but I really think you guys admitted to it, and I think we should go forward with the project and come up with some solution, or get with Kevin or get with the city and get this thing going forward. It's been, I don't feel like I want to procrastinate anymore. I think this project should go forward.
If I could comment, if you reviewed the drawings, there are parapet walls all the way around. It's just that's all I see is parapets. I'm not going to argue it any further. You've had the conditions that I've tried to add. I still have a concern that we didn't have enough conditions under the building section, okay? And do I feel comfortable having a few days to review something that's not my job to do, to come up with conditions of approval? That doesn't sit well with me, because these are conditions that we've repeatedly either have used or we've gotten burned on. And I don't know, if you guys have any more comments, then somebody make a motion on how you want to proceed.
If I may just offer a suggestion, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Alma.
So, and I have a question for Colin. Some of the conditions that were brought up right now, my understanding is that they can become part of the Planning Commission conditions via minute action. Am I correct? Or does it have to be a full new resolution?
I'm not sure the functional difference. I mean, if council's here ready to put them into the resolution, we can add them to the resolution. The final decision is going to be a resolution, so.
Would it be just by minute action, additional conditions, and then the Planning Commission in one stand with the addition to that?
Council can modify this resolution in the way that it sees fit.
Okay. So basically, yeah.
What my concern is that these are just a few that I've noticed on the surface, okay?
Understood.
That the entire category is lacking. And I don't lie, I've heard it before. Nope. We'll go by what the conditions of approval say, okay? And we're going to deliver you a wonderful project. Have we ever seen that change before? Like, well, I don't really buy that condition. No, this is the way we're going to build it. This is the way I presented it. That's my concern.
So if I may, if we could incorporate these conditions as part of the approval and direct the applicant to work with staff, or maybe even the Architecture Review Committee to add additional architectural elements to make it acceptable and approve the project. That's just a suggestion.
I have a question. Sorry.
Kevin, first.
Yeah.
Alma, that's a great suggestion. What's going to protect us, though? Okay. Go ahead, Kevin.
No, I was just going to ask, they said 4 years, and I'm not questioning that, but I guess I am. When did they submit? Because I was involved in this 8 years ago, when the church was, when they were building and developing the center across the street. They were trying to do both sides of the street at the same time. Have they literally been submitting for 4 years, and we've been changing it all that time?
Submitted in 2022. So the project number is based on the year, so they submitted in 2022. Okay. So we've been working with them for a while. There was, yeah.
Well, I mean, like, for example, on page 5.2, I know we're not going to, I actually feel just as bad as Robin does, but what I see when I look at that long row of buildings is I see a bunch of sliding glass doors, basically, and I see just some outcroppings. I see the water tower, which I really love, but essentially I don't really see anything that is Western, and I don't know where the malfunction was, but there's no possible way, unless you guys want to sit here till midnight. I mean, I'd like to see a contiguous porch all the way across. I'd like to see the outcroppings above the roof a little bit more instead of just sort of those straight kind of things like that. I mean, again, like Greg said, we're sort of looking at the surface stuff. I personally, until this was pulled, I had never seen these renderings before. So I guess I missed them in my package. I asked and they said they weren't in my package in terms of, I'd never seen them before, these. And they weren't in that when we pulled it, or when FIA pulled it, I'd never seen these before. And so when I started looking at them, I just went, whoa, this is, I just had never seen them before. So ultimately, I mean, we're the ones that are going to make the decision. I mean, even the front on the left side, as you look again on 5.2, you've got those sort of straight windows. There's no, I mean, you could do an indent, there's things you could do that were done to different buildings to give it some texture. The same on the other side. You have your wall and then it kind of indents. There's sort of an architectural indent. When you go inside and you're walking along, I mean, to have a contiguous porch. You have an irregularity of the horizontal view of the profile above. You have, now I do notice there are some places where they do have some styling to the window. Well, actually, if you look at that drawing closely, there's actually it looks like you do have some segmentation in the windows. I mean, it's a nice development, but I feel really badly about this because we've been burnt so many damn times, and I can't support it as it stands. I would much prefer, they're willing to go back. I'd like to see them, if we could expedite it, I'd like to see them talk with you, Alma. I think you have a good handle on it. I think we have a 30-year history or more of designing buildings that are Norco. We have building after building after building, so whether there was a general plan or not, I mean, a good architect, no offense, a good architect is gonna drive down the street. And, one of the hallmarks of successful architecture is, and then Norconian's an example, you have all these buildings that are using Spanish Mediterranean style architecture. It influences. And so when I look at their renderings that they utilize to copy, they're not the best examples. So I know it's a pain, I feel bad about it, but I just think it could be a better project. I like the sign, I think all that's wonderful, and to Robin's point, you're right, they could look at the smaller cutouts, which do work for the most part when they're done right. But then I think of other cutouts that I see, they're flat and there's no depth to them. I just think it needs to go back, not to the Planning Commission, and I do think you're right, Robin. I think we have to have a joint, maybe we need to have a field trip where we go around and we all discuss what is it that we're looking for. I mean, there's just some angles that you don't normally see. You have that one angle that goes like this, then goes across that way. So for me, I guess what I'd like is if they're willing, if they take our comments and we expedite it as quickly as possible, come back with ideas. I mean, I don't know if you guys are willing to do that, but that's what I'd like to see. And sit down with Alma and just, I mean, God knows, we've certainly been treated unfairly by developers, and this isn't my fault. I look at page 9.2, and I don't see any architectural elements in that are Western. So, but I see a cactus, which, by the way, I like the cactuses. Those are nice. It's the mayor.
Could you go to the podium? And you're representing the
applicant?
Well, I'm just in general, yes. I'm here with him, and yes, I am. Okay. Anyway, hi, everybody. It's good to see all these faces up here and everything, but I've been in Norco for 54 years, and I have my business there at the 6th Street Deli, at that center on Valley View and 6th. And the building there, it's basically a straight building with a pitch on the roof and with the porch that's coming out. Could they just change the elevation on the front of it with the pitch and bring the porch out to make it look Western without changing anything without having to go back and redo all the buildings again? The same with the Inland Vet Center. That has a metal roof on top on it, but they made it look Western. They have the redness, the porch, and the post pillars. Our windows are solid at our center. They're not the individual ones. So I'm asking, is that a possibility to go back? Excuse my voice. I have lost my voice due to just whatever has come about here. But anyway, I was wondering, is that something that the council would consider to make it easier for them to get this project started? Is change the elevation to where we can just put a pitch on the front of it, bring the porch out, make it look Western.
That's part of what we're trying to discuss on
I know.
the process to do it.
But there's two buildings right there, right across from each other, that are built almost exactly the same way. They're flat on top, but they got the pitch looking like a barn, and they've also got the porch coming out off of that. And that's I just want to say that would be the easiest, and we can get this baby started and get that center built.
Well, I think we should appreciate it, Wanda. Thank you.
And I appreciate everybody's opinion on this too, and thank you all.
Colin, to move it forward, my concern is we have these conditions. How can planning staff, how can we move forward and planning staff and possibly architectural review committee come up with additional, design elements, conditions of approval if we go ahead and approve the site plan tonight?
They would have to do it voluntarily. If you approve the site plan, they'd have to do it voluntarily, because at that point, they have an entitlement, they have a project. What you could do is on findings, it sounds like you're not able to make finding A, which is the requested site will not adversely affect the public convenience or general welfare. You're making that finding because your finding is not aesthetically compatible. You could say that I can't make the findings because it's not aesthetically compatible. Direct staff to come back with a resolution conforming those findings. And in the interim, if the applicant wanted to work with the planning director and come forward with a project that council could take a look at on the same night that it was approving the resolution denying the project, we could have another resolution approving the project, or this same one, based on the new set of drawings. I don't know that gives the applicant enough time. I don't mean to, the time window on that, it's very compressed.
Microphone.
We still haven't really addressed the horse situation. Is it possible to use the future building pad area? Would it be able, not that I like the idea of riding my horse all the way through the parking lot, but at least that's a bigger area. Plus, you're gonna be able to have more horses in there. You're gonna get more traffic on horseback there. That would be one. I don't know how that works, since it was talking about being in approval of a secondary entitlement package. So I don't know if that would even be allowed in this.
My comment would be, I wouldn't support that, because on the other side of the coin, that would limit my potential of finding somebody for that, a business for that building pad.
Can I ask a question? On page 34 in the staff report, there is a drawing, and it has the horse tie-up stalls right adjacent to the trail. with the individual horse stalls. Was that taken off at some point in time, or is that still in existence, and when did it change? Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, it was right up, so on this drawing in the staff report, it's on page 34, and it was right up at the front, and it was very similar to what they have at,
The safety of the animals being so close, being that it's such a short setback, so they moved it over here, that's why.
so the planning commission moved something that, at this point in time, the council member is now requesting be done. Correct?
Like the traditional, what we're used to seeing on 6th Street.
Well, there's some of those in front of, I don't know the name of it now because it changed, the bar, Whiskey River. They're like those on,
On the ones that they had, and I don't have that in front of me, I think they were more, they didn't go like the ones on, where the horses were facing in, like the ones by Whiskey River. They went along the side of it.
where? So in Whiskey River, they're out front.
Right, but the way that the horses are standing, the way that I saw it on the original one, it was a narrow aisleway.
It's like a starting gate.
Yeah, it was just the real narrow, and you would just have like one horse here, one horse here, one horse here, one horse here, along the front of it. It just is non-typical to anything else in Norco.
Okay, so the one that I'm looking at that's in the staff report that we got is off the table?
Yes,
Is that
the one-
correct?
yeah,
Okay,
the site
at the
plan-
request of Planning Commission.
That is correct, yeah. The
Okay,
site plan
that's-
that you are, yeah.
Greg, they have agreed to, go back, have a look at it. They've agreed to spend more money if they have to. Why don't we see what they come back with the suggestions that have been given?
I'm fine with that. It's trying to get the answer on how you do that, Kevin, that
Just have them come back to us. And then, per Robin's suggestion, we make the decision here. We don't go back to, we let them go talk to Alma and that kind of thing.
make your motion, or
I make a motion. Well,
or
did you want
do
to
you
say
have a
something?
comment? Go right ahead. Yes.
I
And
know-
you're frustrated, like
no,
us.
I understand where you're coming from as well. I know you don't want to get burned. I mean, I'll do anything at this point. If the pastor has a Bible, I'll put my hand on the Bible, and I'm more than happy to work with Kevin. I'm more than happy to work with the planning department and ensure that you guys get what you want out of the project. But I just need to be able to advertise this. We've missed a lot of conventions, and I need to be able to get some tenants. It's just to the point where, like I said, I need to get it's tough when you're kind of in limbo, and especially at this stage of the project. Stan?
Just quickly to add, I mean, we can start advertising space with an approval, but until we get an actual approval of the site plan, look, elements we can add, and let's make them conditions. Let's make these conditions.
That's my question. What's the guarantee that if you meet next week and we say, or planning staff says, we want X, Y, Z, and you go, nah, that's too much money, I'm not gonna do that.
If you incorporate those into the resolution tonight, then we are obligated to do them. And so they're subject to final sign-off. So someone's gonna go around before certificates of occupancy are issued and say, did they do that awning? Did they do it the right way? And we are bound to it if you incorporate it into the resolution tonight.
But what's the verbiage how you would write that? What's your statement?
Well, if the applicant's okay with it, then we can say.
Well, I'm asking from a legal standpoint.
Well, legally.
I'm gonna trust your legal opinion before his.
I mean, legally, we could put something in that's very broad, that would say this is approved, subject to final approval by the planning director of final plans, incorporating additional western elements. We could do that. If the applicant's willing to agree to that, Everybody agrees tonight, that's fine.
Okay. And then you can mention, if, where it's possible to take another look at the horse corral. If the applicant can come up with a variation, right? And then the other statements that I made are should be just basic conditions. There's no need to be broad on those.
So we can, and Colin, correct me if I'm wrong, we can come back at the next meeting with so the city council could look at the new conditions of approval by the city council and just basically, yeah, this is it. But it basically gives them an approval tonight. But we come back for the city council to basically ratify the conditions. But now it's going to be conditions from the city council.
Okay. What do you all think? Is that all right?
I think 2-3 weeks, whatever it is, till the next meeting. I think that rather than give the approval tonight, I think give them the opportunity to draw something up, do something. I get that they're trying to get tenants, but at the same time, we're talking, these are, I don't know, you're the architect. Are these significant changes we're asking for? If you can come up.
They are and they aren't. Obviously, we have to make some design changes, which do take time and effort. They're not onerous, where it's going to destroy the project, but we are just on a precipice here of making this project viable and going, because as Stephen and Cyrus have said, we have to get some tenant agreements, because pretty soon we're going to run out of money. And so we would really prefer if we got some kind of approval with whatever conditions. And as I've said, we're willing to make those changes and work with you. But we don't want to go back through planning, through architectural review, and spend another 6 months.
I'm not suggesting that in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, we would like to get this approved and then meet with you next week or whenever, as soon
So,
as we can
Colin,
make
can you
these.
craft something, I guess, given the fact, we want to work with you. We really do. But I don't care what's happened in the past. That's not my fault. My job is to protect the residents of Norco, and that's what I'm going to do. But can you craft something that they can get an approval tonight, and we're not going to get burned on the back end, which is what Greg's been asking?
I can craft something. I think we would call the approval on the night that the finished ordinance is approved by council. I can have it ready for the next council meeting. I'll work with the applicant and the applicant's attorney, and we'll get some language incorporating the mayor's comments, and we'll have a statement that the applicant will need to work with the planning director on increasing the western elements, and there'll be something in there that requires final approval by the planning director before the project is considered fully approved, fully drawn, fully designed, whatever that be, but we can put some language together.
Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Who wants to make a motion? Is there any further discussion? Anything else to add? I'll entertain a motion.
Make the motion, but how do I state it?
I'd say a motion to continue the item to the next council meeting to have the city attorney and staff bring back a resolution of approval.
Motion to, say that. I make a
Motion to
motion.
continue the item to the next council meeting so that the city attorney and staff can bring back a resolution of approval.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Under discussion. And this is going to incorporate, this statement, we're adding conditions of approval that are unknown at this time. Correct?
We're adding a conditional approval that is known, which will add design elements that are unknown. The condition of approval will be known. It is, he has to design to the approval of the planning director to add western elements.
Can I amend my motion to include what you just said? Okay, so I amend my motion to include that we're approving, but there are conditions of the architectural elements that are unknown.
I'll make sure that the final resolution includes that.
Thank you.
Dana, do we need a second on the amended motion?
That was my understanding of the original motion
Yeah,
anyway,
that's the
so I
way-
think you
yeah.
can go forward on the original motion. Yeah.
So
We're
we're
good?
good. I just want to make sure, because
You want to read it back?
we're doing the motion to continue to the next meeting. City attorney and staff can bring back for approval, adding conditions of approval as discussed. With the elements unknown, basically.
The condition of approval will be that the applicant will work with the planning director
Okay.
on additional design elements to incorporate additional Western elements and receive final approval of the planning director.
Okay.
So just to be clear, we're getting approval of the site plan, subject to an additional approval we're going to work out for council to vote on the design elements.
From my understanding, there will not be a council vote on the design elements. We are getting a
Thank you.
resolution that will be approved at the next meeting, not at this meeting.
Got it.
It will be subject to final approval of the planning director unless council wants something else to happen.
No.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Please vote. A motion passes unanimous.
Okay. Planning staff's here bright and early tomorrow morning. Okay? Let's go ahead into city council staff communications. Any staff members? Amanda?
We will have the grand opening of Pikes Peak Park on Friday, April 25th at 10 a.m. And then the bleachers have been certified and they're ready for use for this weekend sunrise service at Ingalls Event Center to kick off Horse Week. Thank you.
Done a great job on that. Colin? Lisette? No, you're done. Alma? Greg? Good. Robin? That no? Thea? Kevin? If you have anything else to say, I'd like you to just make a couple of closing remarks in honor of George Engels.
So today is the day that the anniversary of the date of George Engels' death. He died April 16th, 1967. He, as the mayor stated, he jumped on a grenade twice and saved his platoon. The first time the grenade didn't go off, the second time it did. He was a star athlete at Corona High School. In those days, there was no Norco High School. He was senior year. He was voted Mr. Lucky. His service in Vietnam was he got quite a few awards, but he was ultimately given the Medal of Honor. And what was really interesting is the remaining members of his platoon came to Norco a few weeks ago. And they come every year, and a couple of them have died. One of them can no longer travel. They don't want anybody to know they're here. And I've been blessed that they allow me to go with them to the cemetery, and then they come to the George Engels Memorial. And every time they just break down. And so it's, but they fly from all over the country. They've all stayed together. I wish the Veterans Commission could meet them, but they're like, no, this is just our thing. And they think that actually this was probably their last trip because they're infirm. Both of them have Agent Orange issues. But I'm real real proud of the fact that we have done George Ingalls proud, and his family is very, very pleased and grateful that we have done so much to honor them. And I have to give kudos to our council, past and current. I'm really proud of the fact that we don't forget, and that's to every single council person. So I want to thank you guys for that, and we will not forget George Ingalls. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Kevin. And also with that, tonight, I'd like to close this meeting also in honor of Rose Eldridge, in celebration of her birthday and her tireless advocacy to increase senior citizens' quality of life in Norco and around the state for over 50 years before her passing in 2017. One tough lady. She was a lot of fun, and I think we'll always miss her. So with that, in their memory, we're adjourned at 9:56.